So the laws of cloudonomics became very popular over a period of time, and they were first postulated or first proposed by John Weinman of AT&T Global Services, American Telephone and Telegraph Company. That is what AT&T Global Services, and he has stated 10 laws which are going to guide the future development in the area of the cloud computing. And the summary, because there's a whole lot of literature available on the web, that what are these laws, what are the proper definitions, what are the nomenclature, what are the applications, everything is available on the web. So I will briefly discuss all of them, but why they have been proposed and what is a brief summary. These laws aim to encompass all the broad domains and sectors of cloud computing, starting from the utility based services, which is being provided by the cloud service provider like Amazon, Facebook, IBM, Microsoft. Everyone have got their own cloud-based services nowadays. To resource demand, which are demanded by people like us, the end users, because we want a resource access from these cloud service providers. And as we have discussed earlier, different kind of resources are like the CPUs, what we call virtual CPUs, after you have used the concept of virtualization introduced by Goldberg. Then we talk of the RAMs, the internal storage, the hard disk space, the softwares, the various kind of peripheral devices like the routers, networks, switches, gateways. So any kind of the resource which can be made available in a virtual domain by the cloud service provider can be provided as a service, and that we already discussed. So in India, we have got NIC Meghraj Cloud, and they provide today all kind of services to the Indian citizen from the government of India side. Now let's have a brief look at all these laws one by one. We'll briefly discuss them. So first law is related to utility services. Utility services are the common services which are being provided by the cloud service provider. The best example to understand the utility is just like the utility services offered by the central and the state government to its citizens, like the supply of water, supply of electricity, the road constructions, then the construction of the drainage systems, the construction of parks. These are all the utilities. The utilities are basically the entities for the common mass, for the common public who can use them for the day-to-day life. Then what are the on-demand resources? Can I provide the resources free of cost round the year? If yes, then the chances are that they are going to be misused because nobody values the free entities, free services. We have seen that the only thing available free in the world is the parents and the nature, and majority of the people don't value any one of them because they're all provided free. So when we talk of the on-demand resources, the cloud service providers will provide the resources once you ask for it, and then again it depends upon the cloud service provider whether they are going to give you the cloud-based services free of cost for the lifetime or paid services for a specified duration of time, let's say 1 month or 2 months or 3 months, or free academic credits for let's say 15 days of time, or maybe they will give a subscription to your university or your to the corporate offices. For example, there are certain offices which have tied up, and the subscription services provided through them to the end users as such. But the resources are also always going to be on demand. Once you ask for it, then only it will be provided. It won't be 24 by 7 by 365. Yeah, always resources are available to you. Then the peak value demand of the resources, definitely at times when certain cloud-based event happens, or times suddenly in the times of pandemic we have seen the entire world has hooked onto the web. Everyone is browsing something on the other on the net, which was not the case 5 years back. So there's so much amount of data accessing, data sharing by the end users. There's a peak value demand for the content on the web has increased many fold times. Now everyone is trying to get some data from the web. Maybe he's watching a web series on Netflix or Amazon Prime, or he's doing Google Colab based programming, any kind of the entity. Everyone, maybe he's just watching some live movies or playing games. So much amount of data sharing is now taking place, which was not the case earlier. So every day, petabytes or terabytes of material is getting uploaded and downloaded almost on a daily basis from the cloud service provider servers. Now, security is one thing which will remain common. So we'll discuss regarding the security in the cloud-based services. Then what is the average unit cost? Now, if the resources are going to be provided by the cloud service providers, what will the pricing mechanisms. So if you just Google on the web, there are many researchers and academicians who have proposed various algorithms and mathematical models how to carry out the computing, the cloud computing, how to carry the computation of the cost. Means, for example, if I want to access two virtual CPU with 4 GB of RAM and 8 GB of the hard disk space from the NIC. So I've shown you the NIC cost calculator, which immediately computes the cost and then it tells you that this is going to be the monthly cost uh, of the cloud-based services which are going to be provided by to you by the NIC. So if you have missed earlier, you can just Google it. Just write NIC Meghraj cloud cost calculator. Yeah. Immediately you'll go into the Nixie website. It says cost calculator, service type. I say computing services. Let's keep all the options default, which they are providing. Hypervisor for virtualization, I choose enterprise. Type of resource, virtual machine. I don't increase because it says additional storage, additional virtual CPUs, or additional RAM. I just go for default. That I'm interested in the basic virtual machine. Type of server, they provide me with the basic server, database server, web plus application server, and the web server. Again, I don't have that much money, so I choose a basic entity, the application server. Then they ask me the server configuration. So whole lot of server configuration is available. Again, I don't have the money. I'm a startup company, for example, and I choose go the default one, the lowest one in the range. One virtual machine with one virtual CPU, 1 GB of RAM, and 70 GB of the storage space. Because this is where from the entire, this is a basic level of service provided by the NIC in India. Platform, they give me a choice, either I go for the Windows or I go for the Linux, the Red Hat Enterprise Edition. So I choose the Windows one. An environment, they prompt me, either I go for production. There's only one environment being provided by them. Earlier there were multiple, so they may be revamping their services. So what I have done here in the cost calculation, I have chosen all the default value, the bare minimal configuration on which the cloud based services can be provided by the NIC to me, and I click on the calculate, and they throw me the dialog box saying that they are going to charge me 2580 rupees per month. That's the minimum cost. So roughly if you just go for the per annum basis, 30,000 rupees, approximately 28 to 30,000 rupees I need to pay to the NIC after they've revision their rate last year. So that is the cost of money I need to pay for getting the cloud based services for my company, for my offices. So average per unit cost depend upon the quantum of the cloud computing services you want to have from your cloud service providers. And then accordingly, if you release the services or you demand more services, the cost will go up and down. So there is no need to have the static cost around the year. For example, there could be a requirement that in the month of December you require one virtual CPU, then we'll charge for that. In the month of January you require two virtual CPU, we'll charge for that. In the February, you require four virtual CPU, you charge for that. But in March, again, you require back one virtual CPU. So your billing cycle will remain the same, but the cost of accessing these cloud services will go up and down. So they don't force you to pay the per annum cost or for the entire. It's all done on the monthly basis. Even if you look for the Amazon Web Services, AWS, they also go for the billing cycle per month basis. But yes, there are certain cloud service providers that even go for weekly basis or even for per hourly basis. For example, if you use only 2 hours per day for 10 days a week, and they charge $10 per day, so you have to pay that much amount of the cost that comes to your kitty. Then another law of cloudonomics proposed by John Wheelman is aggressive demand. Now, aggressive demand could be a market driven, or could be realistic, or maybe hypothetically generated by the cloud service provider. They create that kind of the environment in the market that will go for the aggressive demand of the resources. So this is all the marketing strategy by the cloud service providers. If you have been an observer of the stock exchanges, sometimes the companies will go into that kind of strategy wherein they will create the demand for their stocks and the people will start buying it. So from the end user perspective, like the programmer and the coders and developer, aggressive demand does not mean much more. It's more the marketing strategies by these companies. Dispersion can happen. We'll discuss them. Dispersion in the cloud service sources, and dispersion can happen due to the natural calamities or due to the man-made efforts. That certain natural calamity has occurred, like thunderstorm has taken place, flash flood has happened, torrential rain occur, and certain uh, locations of the cloud service provider can get badly damaged As a result, the resource sharing can get badly affected and the dispersion of service might happen. Superiority in terms of the services provided by a single cloud service provider. They can have different kind of billing cycle and they also can adopt different deployment models to give the services like the private cloud, public cloud, hybrid cloud. So if they're offering multiple services, then they can offer the services in a single platter or they can charge different services in a different way. So when we say basket of services, that means ki how many services a single cloud service provider can offer. And are these services going to be offered on a single platform or across multiple platforms? And are you a premium subscriber of this cloud-based service or are you a normal ordinary user? So you have to subscribe yourself to one or more than one services and then you get a starting notification for it and then you can register for the service and then can start using it. Because nowadays the days have gone by where the small offices, small corporate companies need to establish their big data centers. So now there is no need. These companies, what we call the FANG group of companies, Facebook, Amazon, Adobe, Apple, Netflix, and Google, along with the Microsoft, have already established the big cloud service uh, servers. In fact, I got an opportunity to visit this NIC server at Shastri Park. So they are the government of India and the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, under which the NIC comes. They already spent millions of dollars in setting up that. So as if I'm a startup company, I don't need to set up my own data centers. I will just approach the cloud service providers and then I will request them, okay, this is what I require from you. They will give me a letter, which I already shown you earlier also. I need to fill it up and then request for the services and they will provide the services. So just even sitting in my own home, I can launch a virtual company, register a domain on Earnet or any other Big Daddy, GoDaddy, so many other cloud service providers are there. I can register a domain and start my virtual entity. I start my website on the cloud-based environment. So I will register my domain. There's an organization called INA, which I think you have heard, maybe heard of, the Internet Assigned Number Authority. And there's another one called ICANN, Internet Corporation of Assigned Names and Numbers. So these are the companies who manages the domain registration. In India, they have given these process of domain registration TCS and NIC. And furthermore, TCS and NIC have outsourced it to many other small players. So I can approach them. For example, I want to launch my own website on a cloud computing domain. Say, let's say rahuljohri.com. So I will register my domain name, pay the cost, and then they will book the website domain name in my name, and I will be given a port number. I can create my own email IDs on that particular website and give it to my clients also. Plus the cloud-based services, if I want to go for data sharing and data computation on distributed computing domain, I can use the NIC-based cloud-based services. So whole platter of services are now available. I need to tell to these organizations where I'm registering my domain name that what kind of services I am interested in, and accordingly I will build for it. So many when we talk of the billing, many companies or many authors have written the research papers on this also. Okay, how do you go for economic model for the cloud computing? So if you just go to the Google Scholar and type economic models for cloud computing, every how to calculate average unit cost, many people have proposed algorithms and which are used by these commercial companies for the cost computation. Now let's discuss some of the important aspect of this. First is the utility services. Utility services charge a premium for their services, but customers save the money by not paying for the services they are not using. So let's say any of the cloud service provider provide the 10 services like software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, database as a service, library as a service, and so on and so forth. So many kind of services are being there. So let's say, for example, if we look out for the services being offered by the NIC in India. So cloud-based services by NIC for its client. So if you just scroll down, look at the services. Platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, and software as a service are the basic services. That will be provided almost every cloud service provider. Then they also provide storage as a service, load balancer as a service, resource monitoring as a service, vulnerability assessment. There is a full-fledged branch of security that is called VAPT, vulnerability assessment and penetration testing. So vulnerability assessment as a service, backup as a service, application performance management, data analytics as a service, e-Granthalaya as a service, agile service, load testing as a service. They just so many services they are being provided. Now let's say out of these 10 services, I'm only interested in let's say if working as a researcher, I'm interested in e-Granthalaya. So out of these 10 services, this is of interest to me. So I will only pay for one of the service and not the whole of the services, because that will result in the increased cost. So these are multiple utility services provided by the NIC. Same with different cloud service provider, they provide their own services. So as a user, what we need to ensure that we need to identify which service suits best to my interest, and accordingly I then subscribe for it. The on-demand resources we have already discussed earlier. This is the ability to provision and tear down the resources, what we call deprovision, plus to capture the revenue and with a lower cost. So on-demand resources is your ability, how much you want, at what point of time, and for what purpose you want. For example, if you are writing, let's say, security-oriented code, or a code for quality of service in cloud computing, or a code for load balancer in cloud computing, using any of the cloud computing tools like Cloudera, CloudSIM, Microsoft Windows Azure, Aneka, so many number of the cloud computing tools are there. So you can write your own code and design your own algorithms that will calculate the cost for the per hour resources being provided by the cloud service provider. And all these resources are variable. For example, the way we are using electricity in our homes, uh, the summer demand the summer demand of the electricity is totally different as compared to winter demands. So our billing for the electricity consumption is variable throughout the year. It is not static that every year, every month of the year I will be charged, let's say, 5,000 rupees per month. It is not. Maybe in winter you are getting a mm, bill of just 2,000 rupees per month, and in summers, because air conditioners are running, and nowadays every household has got 2 to 3 air conditioners, maybe 5,000 rupees per month. So resources can, in resources utilization, resources consumption can go up and down depending on the requirement of the end user or the client, and then accordingly the cloud service provider will charge the money for it. The billing will be done accordingly for that. Then peak value demand we have discussed earlier. A cloud can deploy less capacity because the peak of individual tenants. Now the end user here is a tenant. He is the cloud service provider is providing certain amount of the storage space to him, virtual CPU, RAM, internal storage, hard disk, everything. So you act as a tenant because they are giving you a space to live. So you as an end user go there, they provide you with this. For example, you are using a particular cloud service provider services for a period of 6 months of time. So for 6 months, you are a tenant there because you are using their space in the virtual world. So peak value demand, as I discussed earlier, in the last 2 years have really gone by because now almost everyone is now hooked onto the web, and the web is extensively being used to provide services. So all the educational classes, just like ours, so many number of the IT industry offices have completely switched on to the virtual mode, and almost all the employees have come on board, just sharing their data, doing their day-to-day office work, all in the virtual entities. So consumption has increased a lot, peak value demand has increased a lot, and so has the revenue. These companies have also earned a lot of dollars, lot of revenue have they increased, especially in the times of the pandemic, and also the social networking tools, because nowadays everyone is there on the at home only. They are just accessing the movies, animations, games. Some of them are hooked to the social network platform like LinkedIn and Twitter. They keep on posting the political messages or any of the message to their interest. So everyone is doing something or the other on the web, by and large, most of the times. So peak value demand has actually gone up many fold, especially in the last 2 years. And the amount of time the person spends is called tenancy period. Amount of the time for which you're getting cloud-based services from the cloud service provider is called tenancy period, and they come with a concept called multi-tenancy. Now, multi-tenancy means single client accessing multiple services from a single cloud service provider. Then they are going to they concept is multi-tenancy because you are demanding more than one service from a single cloud service provider. So, single tenancy model, multi-tenancy model. So, if you're just getting single service, you are working single tenancy model. If you're getting multiple services, you are going to multi-tenancy model. Tenancy here means the tenant. Uh, kirayedar, what we say in Hindi, and you have to pay the rent for the services you are getting, and you will never become owner of these services. As long as you want the services, you pay for it. Just like the tenant lives, by and large in India, the concept is that when the tenant moves in, there is a rent agreement that is signed for a duration of 11 months, and then 10% increase in cost from the 12th month. So same way here also, logical virtual agreement will take place between the cloud service provider and the tenant for a duration of time. For example, if you only work for 2 hours, for example, there are paying guests, so you don't have to sign rent agreement for 11 months. You are just going to be paying guests for 3 months, so you pay only for 3 months. So tenancy, there are multiple tenancy models also which have been proposed in the cloud computing domain. Aggressive demand is all the strategy of the cloud service providers, nothing too much concern in the academics, because we want a stable services, a reliable services, and the secure services. So we are not interested much more in the aggressive demand which can be generated by the CSPs, the cloud service provider. Security is very important for the everyone who is now accessing the content or the data from the web, because they don't want their information to be leaked to the outside world. For example, if you're doing any of the financial transactions on the web, you cannot afford your data to be leaked to the outside world. Maybe your credit card details or debit card details or digital wallet details. We as a customer want that our data should be secured strongly by these IT companies. Now, we require some third party vendors also. So there are certain organizations like Cloud Security Alliance, CSA, what we say, Cloud Security Alliance. It's a consortium of the multiple IT companies who are working in the cloud security domain. Are we able to see this web portal of the Cloud Security Alliance? Anyone can say yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So it says, Welcome to the Cloud Security Alliance. It's a new organization that has come up with a primary focus on the security aspect of the cloud. So they don't worry about the load balancing issue. They don't worry about the billing cycle. They don't worry about the quality of service issues. Their only focus is when the data is being shared from the cloud service provider to the end users, or from one CSP to another CSP, it should be done in the secure mode, and the services should not get leaked out. No data pilferage should take place, no data breach should take place. User should feel secure when he's sharing a data in a cloud world. So you can just scroll it down to have a more look at it. I will share the URL of the chat window so you can also go through it even after the talk lecture is over. So if you can look at certificate of the cloud auditing knowledge, CCM4 version 4, explore resources from the cloud security and learn more about CSA emerging technologies. Now, the CSA provides security for the IoT, for the quantum computers, as well as for the blockchain. So these are the primary core areas on which they focuses on the security. Cloud services, the topmost priority of them. Now, those of you who might be interested in security and plan to make a career out of it, or maybe have your academic profile enhanced up or boost up by writing in your CVs, so they also conduct a certificate course like certificate of cloud security knowledge, certificate of cloud auditing knowledge. So you can click on this hyperlink, and this is a certificate program which you can plan to do in your next semester in dissertation, because then the classes will not take place and you will have plenty of time. So you can study for it, prepare for it, and then clear the certificate exam, because you can see here they offer certificate of cloud auditing knowledge, certificate of cloud security professionals, CISSP, Certified Information System Security Professionals, Certified Information Security Auditors, and the exam is on online, just like you have got your end term exam by VBox, 90 minutes with 60 MCQ questions, and the pass percentage is 80. And the certificate exam has a lot of credibility and value in the industry. So if you in your placement drives or later on if you tend to make a career in the cloud computing world on the security domain, your certificate will have a lot of value because it is recognized by almost all top level IT companies who work in the area of the cloud security. So you can go through them at your own pace and learn more about them, how to prepare for them. Even they have given that. So if you just happen to click on any of these hyperlink, prepare for the exam, you can click on the link for the prepare for the exam, and then they will train you, give you the important tutorials and documentation, and then accordingly you can appear for the exams and then clear have the certificates and have your CV get enhanced up and make it much more valuable. Then they have also got something called research guidance, what we call CSA research guidance. So if you happen to click over it, the cloud security allows security guidance for critical areas of focus in the cloud computing. So you can download the guidance from there. They have shown the cloud computing version 4.0 hitting the industry. What should be the best practices, the cloud security best practices in the year 2021. So we can download the security guidance here, security domains. So then they talk of the various domains in which they are working, like cloud computing concepts and architecture, uh, infrastructure security, legal issues, data security and encryption, application security, security as a service, which is a very good domain that has come up, and the related technology means IoT and the blockchain for the along with our cloud computing. And then the certificate exam I have already discussed earlier. You can apply for it, certificate of cloud security knowledge, if you're interested in it. And you can also join them as an individual, as a member. And it's a good organization because they keep on giving the notification, they keep on sharing the e-newsletter regarding the various kind of the attacks that keep on happening every now and then in the cloud computing domain. And in our previous lecture, I already discussed about the various kind of the attacks which are very well known, like man in the middle attack, brute force attack, dictionary attack, spoofing, snooping, birthday attack, replay attack, denial of service attack, distributed denial of service attack. So these are some of the attacks which are known in the open source domain, which are now known to us. But there could be many more attacks which could be happening in the real time environment, which for which we're not aware of. So only the corporate people might be knowing about those who are working in that particular domain. Now, we have got a concept called multi-site logging in the same cloud security domain. We say cloud service provider often have proprietary log formats for recording the activities. Now, what do these cloud service providers do? They will keep on recording that who is getting the services, at what point of time he made a request, what are the services which are being given to him, whether he is making any payment or not, or is he acting as a defaulter, and is he a professional hacker or an authenticated client. So they will keep on recording all these activities. That is what we call logging, logging at a server level, where every activity of your will be recorded. That for how much time you have logged onto the cloud service provider server, what all you did there, what all resources you access there, and for what all purposes you use their resources. So they will keep on observing their tenants, both in a single tenancy model as well as the multi-tenancy model, because cloud service providers support both the multi-tenant operation and the multi-site operation. A multi-site operation means the single cloud service provider may have the resource access at the multiple location. For example, when you download any of the servers, web-based server from the internet, from the web, they ask you that are you going to download from which of the mirror client, maybe the Japan one or the Australia one or the US one or the Europe one or the Asia one. So there are multiple mirror sites available from where, and one is closest to you and one which is secure. You can download any of the web server like Apache Tomcat when you download, or BA WebLogic server. They will always ask you. For example, if you're working in IoT in a Contiki Kuja simulator, they will always ask you from which is a safe site from where you want to download, and then you can start the downloading operation. So multi-site uh, resources are being provided today by the cloud service provider. And again, the logging activity and the data for different clients who may not be co-located is all being accessed and monitored by them. Now, for monitoring, we have got something called the cloud mat tools. MAT means here monitoring and analysis tools, which are used by the cloud service providers. So let's look at some of the prominent one, like the cloud monitoring, because all these cloud service providers are nowadays very conscious of the resources which they are provided and who is accessing the resources at what point of time, are the resources safe and secure or not. So you can see this cloud monitoring uh, hosted on the AWS, Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, and the Google Cloud platforms. So if you want to get access to it, you can start 30 free days trial version, and monitoring the multi-cloud, whether public or private cloud infrastructures. So you can see Amazon Web Services monitoring, Microsoft Azure monitor, how they do it, and you can also download, for example, by starting free 30-day trial version. So you get access to the Microsoft tools. Which tools? The monitoring and analysis. Monitoring analysis means you're monitoring somebody's data and the service in this real-time environment. because for services you need to monitor first. And the real time of example, if you say like for the traffic police install the surveillance camera, the CCTV cameras, what they are doing, they are monitoring the activities of the humans. Is some, for example, somebody may be driving rash on the roads, so immediately the smart cameras capture your speed and they send the challan at your home because they were monitoring your activity on the route. Same way, this cloud service provider will monitor your activity on the virtual world, virtual space. And almost all of them, the all big top five company have now set up their own monitoring tools like Microsoft Azure, the AWS, the IBM, the Google. Everyone have got their own monitoring environment wherein they monitor the resources they provide, and the users' security is being ensured that the users' data is also not hacked up, and the proper monitoring can easily be done. Now, App Dynamic is another very popular site that does the cloud monitoring, that provides cloud monitoring and analysis. Because once you monitor the data, then only you can analyze the data. For example, there could be 1,000 person who are driving rashly on the city roads, and their images have been captured by the surveillance cameras because they were driving at this variable speed. But if the city speed limit is 60 kilometer per hour, and the person is driving at 61 kilometer per hour, then the traffic police can pardon him off because his